Hi everyone. I've just spent a little bit of time just tidying up any large direction lines, like I was saying, rubbing some bits and pieces out, and then just firming up some lines, getting the curves and things exactly how I wanted them, which I've just done with my little piece of charcoal. Okay, so now we've got the basics of the body. I'm just going to add some shadow into the picture. So obviously the lady is darker, with the darker costume than the man's costume. So I'm going to start with her, and you have a shadow coming under his arm here, darker part of the costume. You can start quite light. I'm using quite light flicky marks, like this. I'm going to leave the crisscrossing at the moment. I just want to get an idea of shadow in, really. And then this part of the leg here is dark because it's behind, so we want that to go into the background, and we want the other leg to come forward. And you've got the darker part of the costume coming round here. I'm following the direction of the legs in order to give a sort of, to keep the fluidity going of the movement. This leg is lighter, and so we want it to come forward as it's coming forward in the dance moves. And then if we create this leg at the bottom, it's really quite dark. It's good contrast against the male costume, but it also gives a lovely silhouette. In the drawing, like that, just going over. If you wanted really dark contrast, you could use a compressed charcoal, which is very dark effect. I like the willow personally, because it is so light, and I think you get more variations. Okay, so this leg is receding, so again we want that to be black. Now the outside line of this leg is a little bit on the messy side, so I'm just going to tidy that with the rubber, like that, make that curve better. And if you're drawing lightly, then those things, they lift off quite easily. I've got here a few lines just suggesting floor. Also smudged that a little bit, but you can just go over that a little bit. Now we have these sort of feathery bits of the costume here, and you can use hatching marks going in the directions of the feathers, and we can also put highlights on those later. So I'm just going to use little hatching marks, and looking at the direction of the feathers, they kind of swing round like this. And again, it's almost like a feather boa a little bit, and it comes underneath the man's hand, and it comes down the back like this, and quite quickly you build up this lovely fluffy texture like that. And I can add more to that in a minute. I don't want to go too over the top. Not just yet. Some stronger, longer bits coming down like that. Then we have a little bit of space in between the two arms here, which I'm going to put a little bit of shadow into, and then you have a little bit of shadow underneath the arm there. This is very bright white, so I'm going to leave it. I've got her hand here, and you can emphasize the fingers just by putting a little bit of shading underneath, leaving that white finger quite clear like that. And you have a little bit of shading under the arm as well. So you just gradually building that up. That comes to the centre line here. And I think there's a couple of little bits of feather on his shirt to match the costumes, but not a lot like that. Now with the man, he's got a very, very white costume, so we have to be quite careful not to put too much dark on. This may be a little bit too dark. Let's see how we do. So this is obviously the edge of the woman's body here, and then you've got this quite dramatic curve here, shadow. Now I don't want it as dark, so I'm just going to use my finger and I'm going to smudge it, and it will lift some of the charcoal off, and I can then add another layer of charcoal underneath on top of that. Sorry, I'm concentrating and talking, it's not a good combination. And then a little bit of shaping here, got a little knot of where the fabric creases up here, and you've got a large bit of cloth that kicks out. So I'm putting a little bit of shadow in, but I'm not putting too much. I don't want it to be too solid. I don't want to put heavy pressure on here, because the leg that goes behind, really I want it to recede back, so I want it to be darker, really. Now we need to make sure that the top bit of the leg and the bottom bit of the leg joins up, so we want a few marks that just include both halves of the leg. We've got a very definite crease here, and again you can just smudge that out like that. A few bits where the fabric pulls there, then you've got the seam of the bottom of the shirt, and again you can start thinking about the folds in the fabric. This is the bit I really enjoy. Getting all this texture in and movement in the fabric. And you've got the tiny sort of tie at the back here, and then you've got where the fabric rides up a little bit like that. And we've got the annoying collar that I don't like. We'll take those direction lines out of it like that, make it brighter and whiter, and I'm going to put a little bit of shadow where the forearm recedes back behind the shoulder like that, and I've got a little fold of fabric coming down like that, and a few lines describing the collar coming round like this, with a bow tie going on there. And then some hair. I'm just going to put some texture in, look at the direction of the way the hair is growing. It's kind of growing down the head like this. I think there's a little bit of a quiff or something going on there. Building it up. The side's a bit paler because it's very short. Tidy up the ear a little bit like that. Can't really see any features. You can see where the eye is there. So we're going to give a little dent, little tiny dent there, and that will give the suggestion of an eye socket, and it really gives a better impression of the face. And actually I think I'm going to put a little bit of an eyebrow in there, and I'm just going to bring the hair down a little bit more, otherwise it will look odd. Can't have that. Okay, right then, so I want to give a little bit more shape to the lady's arm, with a bit more definition on the hand there, and a little bit of shadow coming behind the elbow here to show how the elbow is coming forward like that. I don't want to overdo it too much. And then I'm going to put a suggestion very, very lightly. You can just dab your charcoal like this, and it can give you just the smallest suggestion. You don't need a lot, just a small suggestion. Make her nose just slightly less dark than that. Such a lovely lady. She didn't need a black line down her nose quite so much. Take the monobrow away as well, like that. And you can put the eyebrows in like that. Just clean up the eyes a little bit underneath. Then you can put a suggestion of the eyes like that. You can't do massive details with charcoal. You just need a suggestion like that. And then she's got some feathers around her face. Got a strange mark here. Get rid of that. So she's got some feathers coming up like this, and small shadow where the hair is like that. And then some more feathers coming up and around. Suggestion with the ear, just drawing the small part of the bottom of the ear. She doesn't need massive ears coming out. A little bit of neck like that, and then we can start to put some of the feathers in around to add to her costume. Now the trickiest part of this drawing now is to put this netting in. So I'm going to put her seam in like this, and it follows her body around like that, and then as you can see it's kind of fishnet kind of material. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do dots of netting, just a suggestion, almost like diagonal lines coming down like that. Again, if I put heavy lines on, it's going to ruin the whole thing. It's going to be too heavy and it's going to take everyone's attention, whereas we just want a suggestion of something so we know it's there, but we don't need to shove it in people's faces really. So I'm just following the curves round like that. Down like that, and then we can swing back the other way in a sensitive way towards the body, looking at the way it curves. Just a suggestion, nice and light. And it just gives you an idea of the costume. Okay, so for my last look at my figures, I think his bum's disappearing. I think he needs a bigger bum. Something a bit more shapely. Doesn't sound quite right, does it? And lighter. Something like that. And I think she needs a few more feathers. I think her feathers are a bit more voluptuous than that. Whoops. So I'm just going to add more flicks to the costume like that. Now, if you wanted to, because he's very light and she's very dark, what you could do is you could add more contrast by adding a dark area around the body. I'm worried I'm going to overcook it, so I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to leave a few suggestions of where the feet are, like that, just to give us a bit of gravity. And that's it. Good luck with your dances, everybody, and I will speak to you again next week. Bye.